project, into the grant. Well, things have morphed a little bit in the grant, and we've documented those in letters to the financial procurement officers. So we're not hard and fast to every rule, every I that's crossed and T that's dotted in that grant. If there are necessary changes required to make this thing work, we simply notify the NTIA or the federal procurement officer of our intended change. So because you have one document that says the sky is blue, well, sometimes the sky is light blue or gray, and we have to identify to make those changes accordingly. So things have changed some sort in the grant application, and but again, it's for the betterment of the community. How do we make this thing work and operate efficiently without causing undue harm and expense to the community?
So let me ask you a question. I've gone through this grant application 4 or 5 times. And the only thing that I've seen in the grant application concerning operation is an organization that was previously named. But I've seen no structure for operation. Now, if it's there, I haven't seen it, because the only thing that I've seen is that the South Central Alabama Broadband Commission will be ultimately responsible for the operation.
That's correct.
And they would have to hire a contract, somebody to operate. And it says the South Central Alabama Broadband Commission has to do that. Not Trillion before they leave, or not A2D2 before they turn it over. It says the South Central Alabama Broadband Commission right now. And that's why I'm going to be a stickler for that as long as they'll have me around, that we really going to have to structure that in a way that's going to please everybody. When we got lenders or investors involved with the match fund, then I've been around the finance business for 40 years. And I've always used trustees when there might be some thought between the two parties that you may not pay me, so we need this money to go to a trustee. But never in my life have I seen a situation with a federal grant or a state grant, any bond, where a for-profit company was set up and started to manage and control non-profit funding for something like this. And first thing I'd like to see is I'd like to see a precedent where it's done. I've never seen it. And my thing is, since we continue to talk about that, I'm going to continue to be adamant in my attitude. I suspect that if SCABC and this group say, well, we're going to accept that, I suspect that I'll pick up my little bag and walk out the door. Well, I just kind of suspect that.
Let me
that makes sense.
And I appreciate the passion that Mr. Wood has about that discussion. This again is one of the issues that we as a core team are discussing every day. We're not there yet. But Larry, you had a question?
Well, I did have a question. I want to make one statement. It's about compliance, because I keep hearing this question about change and all of that other stuff. And I want to bring to Ralph's remembrance, because I know he's got a lot on his plate, and that's one of the reasons he's contracted us. And if I remember right, 10% of the grant, up to 10% of the grant, from a change standpoint, for minor modifications and things like that can be made. But if you're doing anything that's going to affect more than 10%, you kind of got to go back through approval process with the federal government. So everybody knows that it's going to stick pretty much on track as far as what the grant says, with just minor bumps in the roads and changes like that, so that no, we can't just say change something and then just change it. That's not allowed. So we got a little bit of leeway in there, and that's the only thing I want to do, because I keep hearing that question about change, and I want everybody to understand what the grant says about change from that standpoint. And there's a process that we have to go through
2 questions, Mr. Green and Mr. Stone, and then we're going to move on to the next section. And I promise y'all, the next sections that we go through are kind of yes or no, or dates or something. They should move fairly quickly, so I don't want y'all to think you need to order a pizza at this point. Okay?
Keith, want to say what's up first? Just bear in mind that someone or some entity has to oversee the management of these ISPs and the management of the funds. One train of thought is the SCABC is poised to do that. Another train of thought is maybe an LLC should relieve the SCABC of its functions and go about the business of doing, community work, community service work. So those 2 opinions and dynamics are being discussed. And Robert's he's very right. The SCABC has the authority to make some decisions like that. But again, at the end of the day, it is what is best for the community. What makes sense from an efficiency standpoint, from an accountability standpoint, and from a reporting standpoint. Okay, so that's where we are today.
We do have just 2 other questions. I was wondering.
I want to answer that question specifically. We have to report quarterly. We have to make a report for everything that's done on the project. I'll speak a little bit for Hoskins and some of the other people that put those reports together. But I know that when those reports are submitted up, eventually they show themselves up on the website so that everything's transparent. So that when you say how are we going to know it, anything that's happening that's being reported shows up on the website so you can track everything right on the website because it's an open and transparent process. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that nothing's being done like behind closed doors and all that. It's all the process that we're following from a grant standpoint, and then it's posted on the website.
Is there any denotation as to what changed rather than reading the whole grant over again?
Yes, the reports and all of the other changes have a different section on the website.
It's NTIA's website, so it's actually, I think that you can log in USA.gov or NTIA. I have that website. I can share that with regional planning councils. I can share it with they can pass that on out to the mayors so everybody can keep track. And there are past several quarterly reports are out there. There is a section that says, is anything in jeopardy at this point? Is anything behind? What has changed? So it is a good update.
The SCABC is also developing a website that's going to be informative.
That would be great. For information, the more information that can be available to communities so that it would not constantly wonder what has changed this month will be better. Keith, you have a comment?
I just wanted to kind of, again, my thing is kind of as direct as I can. To directly answer your point, yes, there is change and so forth. What I think we can all agree on is pretty much the last component of what is that last piece of the puzzle has been, to be frank, has been the cash match. Investor, debt, whatever it may be, and how that plays in. So that's kind of that last component to say, okay, we kind of, we got the ISPs and shit, we got SCABC, we got a hand on that, how things should be. Now the cash match has its stipulations, it has its thing. That should be, and again, it's kind of going on, that should be, for the most part, the last driving factor of the changes. Okay, so that, again, there will be some change, so on and so forth, but that's probably the last big one. If I could probably send that message.
Right, and we have a section on cash match, and there are some specific questions about that. Ms. Brown, I would like to ask before I ask 2 questions. Can you finalize the graph? Just quickly, show us how it gets down to the communities.
So, once the revenue is generated from the ISPs, and the dollars are managed by an entity, whether it's the SCABC or whether it's the LLC, there will be a payment by the SCABC. The SCABC is responsible for paying the company that's going to operate that network. Someone has to live 24/7 and monitor the network to make sure it's humming 24/7, right? So that network operator will be paid for or reports to that SCABC, right? So there is a payment from the gross revenue. Part of that payment goes to the network operator. There may be some other ancillary costs that may be the SCABC may be responsible for. As an entity, there will be costs. Okay? At the end of the day, once the revenue or once the expenses have been taken away from the gross receipts, you got net income or profit. That profit is then split or divvied out to the various cities, municipalities, counties. Now, the SCABC or the entity may decide, well, you know, instead of 100% dissemination of the profit, maybe we should save a little bit for economic development, or for training, or for the betterment of the community. That's their call, right? But at the end of the day, once all of the bills have been paid, the various entities who are members of the SCABC will get that revenue.
Based on the number of miles within that jurisdiction?
There are some algorithms that will determine how much does each one get. I don't think it's 100%. I don't think Selma gets the same amount as Pink.
Right.
I can answer that question.
Okay. All right, question, Mr. Green, and then Mr. Stone, and then we'll move forward to the next section, okay?
I don't know what I can be asking, but that was the question that came up from the gentleman, right here, when you asked about franchise, existing franchise agreements, and Mr. Shaka, I think the answer it completely, but I think his question was not so much for ISPs, not so much for ISPs and telcos, it's more for media providers like Charter, Knowledge, who may have an exclusive or non-exclusive agreement with the city. How is that to be handled? Or should that be handled in the construction phase or in the operational phase?
Two questions, please.
I think it's operational.
Two questions. How should it be handled? An existing franchise fee, or an existing franchise agreement, unless that carrier, MSO, telco, are converting to use this infrastructure to deliver services, doesn't change. It can't change. There is no impeding event to cause that change.
Now, when I say exclusive, if the city has an exclusive agreement with a carrier, specifically probably cable,
Are you
the city
saying
does not have.
no other carrier can come in?
Yes.
That's right.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Under franchise agreements, that's the thing that the city sign on to.
If there's an agreement, okay, if there's an existing agreement, and that city or county, for example, says, we're going to honor our agreement and we'll have no competitor who will keep our standard agreement. In that particular case, we will build a middle mile backbone. We'll build a middle mile backbone because the grant requires us to connect every anchor institution, every business, as part of the middle mile backbone. Fiber to the premise, that's our 20-mile segment. Yes, sir. Okay, kind of disseminate the difference between the two. Middle mile is transport. Transport is your middle mile. Oh,
It's a backbone.
did I go there again?
It's a backbone from point A to point B. It doesn't get to the house yet. The last mile is from point B to the house. That's the last mile.
For example, central office down to the customer printer. That's last mile. Middle mile is connecting the CO, AT&T CO, back to a main line. For example, they want to connect to level 3. That backbone that gets that facility in Selma down to Root, they still have the ability to use that transport backbone to carry that data. Today, there is no franchise agreement for that component.
But how would that impact? And the reason you're asking this, if we build a middle mile backbone, how does that impact the stipulations, the tenants, and the requirements of the grant? So do we change that? We're not going to do last mile, let's say, in Selma, because Selma has an exclusive agreement with Charter. So do we change that and say, we're just going to build a middle mile through that? But the grant specifically said we're going to touch 2,200 homes in Selma.
No, it does not say that.
Well, I'm just using an example.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking.
Well, remember, let's step back to